everyone. Thanks for joining. We're going to probably wait about a minute to get started. Make sure as many people can get on before we start. Okay, and I think we'll just get started. So hello, everyone. Welcome to our ACI Success Stories conversation. Today we have our founder and CEO, Ken Fee, as well as Chuck Martini. Chuck leads our advanced technology adoption practice. Chuck has also just celebrated 8 years with BTA. That's awesome, Chuck. We're so happy to have you at the company. Today we'll be discussing the process and key success factors for rapid deployment of ACI into production. We'll also be taking live questions from the audience during the event. So please drop them in the chat and we'll answer them at the end. Ken, I'll hand it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Jen. As Jen said, our topic today is ACI Success Stories. And what does success mean? ACI as a platform has really matured in the last 8 years. It's hard to believe it's been 8 years. Chuck has helped us define the BTA way and our simple service delivery process from the beginning. We're going to spend the next 15 to 20 minutes about talking about how we do this rapidly at scale, and share a couple stories here and there. Some of it's process, most of it's experience. Chuck, you want to?
Yep. Thanks, Ken. Jen, thanks for having me on today. As I said, success in deploying an advanced technology like ACI isn't just about knowledge and experience. That's important, but it's the process that really makes the difference. We'll talk later in this session about our process, which has led to BTA delivering more successful ACI deployments than pretty much anyone outside of Cisco themselves.
Yeah, and we always talk about, hey, we've done over 500 successful deployments, and I think our approach to that and the way that we've done that is, I like to call it keeping customers out of a ditch, and it's sharing experiences, it's sharing best practices, it's focusing in on what are the use cases and not the science projects that need to be deployed as part of an ACI fabric. So, how do we get started down this path with customers, Chuck?
Well, Ken, it all starts with a phase in our simple process. That we have a mnemonic for our project delivery. No matter large or small project, we always follow the same simple process. Stands for start, immerse, map, prove, launch, and evolve. Most of the phases are fairly similar to PPDIO or other lifecycle projects or processes you may have heard before. Our difference is in that immerse phase. After we start, we immerse ourselves and our customers in the new technology, because you need to know how it is and how it works and what it is before you can even effectively define what you want to do with it. So we start off right from the start with training. We have some of our own training. There's certainly some excellent Cisco training out there that can be leveraged as well. But that training builds a foundational competence, particularly when customers are new to an advanced technology like ACI. It has a lot of new terminology, new processes, new concepts. So you have to get a baseline competence level of what an EPG is, how a contract works, how tenants work, how do access policies work, which is one of the more challenging aspects for a lot of customers. But getting that foundational competence level through training is absolutely essential, which takes us to our next phase.
Yeah, and that's and this is something that literally I've been doing for 15 or more years, is having design workshops with customers, being very structured about it, and focusing on what are the use cases that the customer needs out of the fabric now, in the medium term and in the long term. And defining what those use cases are. And I like to call this defining done, or identifying what DDFD is. And there's 3 dones and 1 F word there. Because if we don't complete the project, then it's one of these lingering things. And I think we do a pretty good job of keeping these projects on track and on time. And the other thing I'd like to say about use case definition is, if you define use cases, you write your test plan. And you can test to use cases. You can't test to feelings. Chuck, you want to talk about the map phases, and we like to do this design workshop. I'm sorry, I'll finish one more thought here. Is we like to finish this workshop after we've completed training, so we're all on the same page from a vocabulary perspective, and we're making good decisions about what are the use cases we need now, medium term, long term.
Exactly, Ken. So we've done the start phase, the immerse phase, where we've done training in the design workshop and defined what the system is going to look like at the end and defined our use cases. Then we're into the map phase, where we take the high level design document, which is documented not just the architecture, but also the business and technical use cases, why we're doing this, as well as the test plan. Then we move into the map phase. And the map phase is actually laying hands on equipment and making the low level configurations that implement that high level design. We do this in a mentoring capacity. We've always done that. Mentoring is key to everything we do at BTA. And by doing it alongside the customer and showing them and helping them and teaching them and letting them do it themselves under our guidance in a continuum, builds confidence. The training we put at the beginning in the immerse phase builds competence. We get to the map phase, the mentoring manner that we deliver the deployment builds competence. So the customer gets more and more competent and confident about what they're doing with their ACI environment. And one of the areas where we've had a lot of good success with this is in one of the key differentiators for ACI. I mean, ACI is the premier turnkey software-defined networking system. A key reason people deploy software-defined networking is they want the benefits of automation. Automation is new to a lot of our customers. So not only does the immerse phase include training that covers some of that automation, it introduces APIs and the concept of automation to our network engineer customers, but we also show them how to use that automation in that map and the proof phase according to the designs and specifications we built in the HLD. So we know exactly how far they want to go with automation, and we mentor them along that path.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. And let me talk about it's a customer deployment. It's actually a manufacturing customer. They build things. Probably a Fortune 100 customer, and this customer had purchased some equipment about a year and a half before BTA was engaged. They had somebody deploy it, which was basically quote unquote rack stack and powered on and discover things, but they didn't really have that that structured plan to go forward, defining their policy model and their operating models, and they didn't have a simple process. And the partner gave them, they turned it on, but then this customer tried to do it themselves, and again, they didn't have a process, and we got pulled into this, like I said, about 18 months later, and to get this thing deployed. And at the time, this customer was having literally weekly outages with a 10-year-old competing fabric. So this was actually a competitive replacement. And I'm meeting with this customer in August, and we talk about Simple and talk about our process and everything that we go through. And and they're like, yep, we want to do that. We love that. We want to train. We want you to mentor us. We want everything that you're going to do, BJ. And I'm like, great. When do we get started? And they're like, well, we've got a change freeze that starts in November, and so we probably won't really be able to get started on this until January. And I was like, hey guys, it's the first week of August. They're like, well, we're a big company. We've got a lot of process, and there's just no way we could get this done before our change freeze. And I was a little bold, and I threw down the gauntlet. I said, if you engage with us in this process and we do a design workshop in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have that fabric deployed before your November 1st change freeze. And I got some looks and a little bit of skepticism, but customer did it. They pulled it together. We went, when we could still go on site with customers, we went on site. We did a design workshop. It was still a hybrid design workshop because they're a globally distributed company. But we were there with the core team. We did a design workshop with them. We defined done. We identified use cases. And, that was a 2 to 3 day, face-to-face exercise. Um, and then we took that and we produced our high-level design document. And then um, they were really motivated by this process. They saw that it could be done. And we got the PO to actually do the deployment services literally that same week that we completed the high-level design. And we actually worked with the customer, trained the customer, did the deployment work, did the mapping, got this thing deployed, and customer accepted 5 days before November 1st, October 26th. And that was pretty Herculean. And tangential to that, while we're in flight on this particular fabric, they had one of their smaller business units that needed a small ACI fabric deployed, and they asked us to work with them on that. So literally in the space of 90 days, we deployed 2 fabrics at a single customer. And after those 2 fabric deployments, then the customer had a methodology, a path to follow, some custom automation that we built for them. And after the new year, they deployed a 3rd data center on their own in less than 2 weeks. And that's what our simple process brings to customers and brings to partners is we show you the way. And it's process, it's project management, and there's a lot of technical things. I'm not going to dispute that there's a lot of knobs to turn in ACI, but if you break it down to its most elemental, what do you need now? Get it deployed, and then take a more structured, add new features, add new use cases as you move down the road. Then you can get it deployed. You can build that, like you talked about, operational competence and confidence.
Right.
So that's one of many success stories. We've done this with a number of manufacturing customers, healthcare customers, financial customers, insurance customers. You pick the industry, we've probably deployed an ACI fabric in it. In the interest of trying to keep this relatively short and consumable, I'm gonna wind that up there. Jen, do we have any questions from the audience? Jen, I think you're on mute.
Thank you for that, Chuck. We have one question, and it's how does BTA approach day 2 ops?
Okay, well, there's a couple ways to approach this. One is we try to prepare customer for day 2 ops with our simple process and the mentoring that goes on. And that's training, that's advanced training, that's ops and troubleshooting specific training, teaching customers automation, the mentoring components of that, helping them understand what are the things that you need to do daily, weekly, and monthly with your ACI fabric to care and feed for the environment, whether it's updating docs, looking at consumption of resources, building run books. Run books are a key component of our standard deployment methodology. We work with the customer to build a run book, and if we need to build some custom use cases, that's something that we'll go do with them. And that's the enable the customer to run it after we leave. The second approach to that is we built we call it advisory optimization and workload migration services. So we go through all this process. We build an ACI fabric. We connect it to the current environment. And most of the time, customers want to migrate their workloads in at their pace over time. And what we do with our advisory and migration services is provide that expert to continue the mentoring process, to have that shoulder that somebody can tap on and say, hey, I don't understand how I do this. Can you walk me through it? It might be showing them how to build a script to automate the creation or deletion of a bunch of things. Most of our customers before ACI never did a great job at deprovisioning things. And so there's all these leftover straggling things. So we really encourage customers, everything has a life cycle and you've got to manage it. And the best way to manage these things is through automation. And then we do a bunch of other things with that service. It's really about finding that transition and expertise, the new feature use case planning. We do quarterly health checks. We'll run tools against the environment and show them how to get the most out of not just the ACI dashboard, but also things like Nexus Dashboard. Nexus Dashboard is Cisco's day 2 ops platform. So that's always part of what we do in the front end deployment. Nexus Dashboard not only gives us visibility, but it allows us to manage multiple ACI sites or ACI and NXOS sites or cloud sites. So helping customers understand these things, these tools, and how to build them into their daily operational processes is what we do, whether it's teaching them to do it on their own or we're working with them on an advisory basis. And I just encourage anybody that's out there listening or watching later, if you want to have an in-depth conversation about this, whether it's a new deployment or an existing deployment that may be stranded, there's been a lot of personnel transitions in the last 2 years. A lot of people have changed jobs. A lot of the expertise has migrated from one company to another. So we do a lot of work with customers that need to train a whole new team. So we can help you through that process. But please reach out, and I'll wrap that up there and turn it back over to you, Jen.
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you to everyone for spending the time with us. If you'd like to talk to us about a new ACI deployment, please click on the schedule conversation link in the chat. And if you'd like to discuss an ACI health assessment for an existing deployment, please click on the health assessment link. So big thank you to Chuck and Ken. You guys are extremely busy, and this is, really helpful stuff. So thank you again for watching, everyone, and until next time.
Cheers.